Bueno, ¿qué tal comunidad Global Mindfulness Group? El día de hoy estoy súper contenta porque está con nosotros Tyler Stevens, quien nos va a hablar sobre los PSI Games que están próximamente a realizarse por primera vez en Estados Unidos en el mes de agosto, del 1 al 3 de agosto. Y bueno, estoy muy contenta de poder a tener Tyler el día de hoy con nosotros, que nos va a contar de qué se trata este evento que es tan importante y por muchas razones. Así que quería hablarles de eso el día de hoy. Quería presentarles a todos, a la comunidad Global Mindfulness Group, los PSI Games International, a Tyler, nos acompaña el día de hoy. Tyler, para quienes no lo conocen, es un investigador y también pues un experimentador en lo que es los sueños precognitivos, en lo que es visión remota y también todas las experiencias con UFOs. Así que, Tyler, thank you so much. This is a great opportunity. And how exciting. This is a very exciting moment. So thank you. And I think a lot of people are probably very interested in understanding what this is all about. We've been, sending information to the Global Mindfulness Group community, and people have been sort of like curious to learn more about this and what this really means.
No, that's wonderful. And thank you for the introduction. I feel kind of important now. So, and, just to shout out to Hakim for the PSI Games. Hakim is a martial arts studio owner and consciousness researcher, and really took this by the reins and started the PSI Games and a lot of the initiative, a lot of the speakers. Looking forward to the event. So, thanks again for Hakim. And this platform is really just to showcase a lot of the speakers and a lot of the people involved. Orly's a great contributor to our team, to the PSI Games team, and organizing it, and really excited about the Global Mindfulness Group and getting them involved in psychic phenomenon, testing in some of the games, getting them involved, and really branching out into different communities to let them know, just educate them on PSI. I think, we talked about this before, of just starting from a foundation level and letting people discover it on their own and have these experiences and develop their skills. So it's an exciting time.
Yes, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to showcase and really educate people about what this is, and and the abilities and the experiences behind it and the explanation. And there's great speakers on the event, as well as scientists and people that have been doing research for such a long time, and finally bring this all up in a very serious, professional, but also in a fun way, as should be, as part of a human experience. And I am so very excited for this first time event, because I think if we're able to extend the invitation, in this case to the Global Mindfulness Group community, to the Spanish speaking community, and understand, let them know that all these experiences that, people have, because the majority of us have some sort of experience at least once in our lifetime that we can recall, and we don't know, either what to do about it or what is it. And we think it's just like, something strange that happened, and we don't find explanation. We don't want to talk about it. So having, all these speakers and experts and, and demonstrations and all these community put together to finally, make sense of it and go like, look, this is real, and this is part of our capacities as human. If we can develop them, that will make our reality even more fascinating and actually even more powerful. And we've talked about the importance this has in the the youth, but I guess my first question, Tyler, is, okay, so what is it that the PSI Games about? Why is it put together as an international games, and what's behind this intention to have this event taking place?
Yeah, I know that it's really important to be able to have people experience this on their own instead of just be provided evidence. I know, just speaking personally, I'm a lot more open to the experience. And so being able to go out and learn about these, not only learn about them, but actively participate in this, I think is one of the initiatives of why people just getting involved at all. And I think competition, the competition aspect is a little bit controversial, but I like it. I personally really like competition because I think it brings out the best of the ability itself. And so if we've got scientists there, if we've got researchers there, we've got the best of the best, psychics there, I think that we could really capture something special and really document it for scientific purposes, not just for, to show it off.
Yeah,
I
for
think there's
entertainment.
there's an importance there and a motivation behind this, not to just, show it off and to, try and make money off it and documentaries and all that, but to really create a science. I think we're kind of getting at the science of consciousness, and parapsychology has been here for a long time. So, combining those in a fashion where we get the best researchers that are working on the topic and practitioners who are genuinely interested in providing data and helping the progress of the field along, I think is really important. And so, it adds a fun atmosphere to it. I think, not to take it so serious, that people can show up, they can have a good time, they can enjoy it, or you can show up and really try and contribute and do well in these psychic tests. So I think it's a lot of things and, a lot of reasons people could participate in this event, not only just, to come and see psychic stuff, but to actually learn about it and participate yourself.
Yes, and I do think it's an amazing opportunity to have, all this put together and throughout, 3 days where there are going to be, speakers talking about all these different, abilities and the competition and just to be able to share within, this group of people that have so much information, research, interest, that share these passion as well about all these abilities. So I think when I remember when I met Hakim for the first time, one thing that I noticed right away, it's how committed and how passionate he was in bringing this together for the reason that, I was captured was, it's like, we have to show the world that this is real, that it exists, that, it's nothing, strangely and, weird or cuckoo out there like it's been always tried to be perceived at, but it's something that we can all develop and that it's part of, our nature as human beings. And I think one of the most important keys is to be able to show this in a serious but in a fun way and educational way to youth, because I think that's where the biggest gifts are, because there's so many so many children and adolescents that do have these abilities and they don't want to speak out about them because they don't want to be looked at, oh, I'm the weirdo in the group, or this is so strange, I don't feel comfortable. When I think for us as adults, we look at them and we go, wow, it's quite amazing that they have these natural abilities, and it shows what we are all capable of doing. So I think that it's something so important. That message is so important to come across, all around, and especially having great scientists that are doing the research while the event is taking place, because it's going to provide with a lot of feedback and serious information that people can relate to and be like, oh, see, this is something that you can take seriously and you can even develop even further. So tell me a little bit, Tyler, about how it's the competition sort of, is it, I know there are adult competition and there's also for kids. Can you tell me a little bit about it and the categories that they're going to be presented?
Yeah. So just to step back really quick and give a foundation on psi, okay, of psi abilities. Psi is short for parapsychology or psychic, phenomena. And so historically what has been researched within parapsychology is ESP, which is telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition. And then there's also out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, the afterlife, and a little bit of poltergeist and that those type of studies as well. But for the most part, I think it's based around psychic phenomenon. And so for the games, we do 5 different tests, 5 different specific phenomenon within that size set. So the first one I'll go over is precognition. So the ability to feel or learn or get information through time, so before it happens. The second one is dowsing. So it's using a pendulum or dowsing rods to make a decision or to get some information. The third one is remote viewing. So it's clairvoyance, testing a certain location, a certain target, getting information about that target. Let me see the 2 other ones. Mind sight. So mind sight is blindfolding yourself and being able to mentally or psychically see what's in front of you. So you've got a barrier in front of you and you're still able to see. And the last one, thinking off the top of my head, I can't really think what the last one is. And PK. So it's psychokinesis. So it's trying to move, in our case, mostly it's trying to move an object. It's like micro PK. There's 2, macro PK and micro. So you could try and move your, this thing to fly across the screen with your mind, or you could try and move like a ball on your computer screen mentally so that it's not, on our test, we basically have a box and there's a ball in the middle and it randomly moves and you try and keep it to not hit the outside of the box mentally. And so if you could do that for a total of like 35 seconds, that's a significant data point. And so the more that you test these things, the more that you see that there's an actual ability that people have, over time. So it's not necessarily, I think a lot of the time when people, at least what I hear from skeptics and, people you mentioned that are, kind of have the stigma out there is they want the unbelievable session that blows their mind on the spot. And with me, and I think the point of the PSI Games and a point of a lot of this testing is that you don't get that necessarily. You get over time, you see that there is an ability that takes place. So it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's a super psychic and they show up and just wow everybody every time. The psychic information is in the data itself, where you're comparing it to something and someone performs very well over a long period of time to show that the ability is actually there. So that's kind of in a nutshell the psychic games and the PSI Games.
Right. And what I think it's super interesting, right, it's not necessarily about the show behind these abilities, but more to understand, the ability itself and how we can, I guess, compete in a way, because you have the adult competition, which I think it's going to be a great way also to bring the very best and to be able to get the measurements, for the research, for all the scientific research, which I think it's very important nowadays to finally, get rid of these labels and start to take these abilities serious, because I think, we are into AI and everything that's coming, and hello, what's happening to us humans? Where are we with our own, innate abilities? And so I think it's, in a way, I see it as like bringing back, the focus onto us, and realize that we are much more than we are thought to be in many ways. So I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity. And
how would you do the kids testing though? Because I didn't really mention that. We have a plan and there's a lot in place in terms of how we would gather the data. But what do you think is maybe the best method to test children?
Well, see, I've had a few conversations with some people and some groups here in Europe, and some people are very much into the kids want to compete. They are up to it. They are excited about joining a competition, because I think I think kids in general, they like to compete. They like to play. They like to compete. And I think there's probably a group of kids that might be more reserved, and they don't want to, they might feel a little bit, uncomfortable being in front of so many people. But I think as long as it it shows true to nature, to be a competition like anything else, and I think as long as the message is clear into, it's not about the biggest show, it's not about, wow, you're able to levitate meters, because no one is expecting anything really crazy like that, but more like,
Sure.
the fun of being involved in any competition, and also the teamwork, which I think it's also always quite fun in a group that's competing. So I think I've thought about it a lot, because and maybe this is the time where I have to ask you, because I'm sure when there are kids involved in anything, and especially there's probably a lot of people's ideas playing around, oh, what is this? And we talked about it, all these crazy ideas that
Mm.
people are thinking, oh, you're taking kids, and then what are you doing with the kids? Are you signing them
Turning
up?
them into the CIA, and the conspiratorial rabbit holes are going out there. But
Yeah, and I think it's good to bring that up, because we all have, somewhat of very extensive imaginations, and we tend to want to create like we said, there's a saying in Spanish, won't translate well in English, but says, try to find the fifth leg of a cat. There's only four. But there's always this, I guess, desire to try to make up with a story that is not there. And I think generally speaking, in the English, in the US, there's a lot more conspiracy that
oh
rises,
yeah,
especially above, this sort of subjects, and about
sure.
everything else, than maybe, the Spanish speaking community. So I know there's been a lot of conspiracies and a lot of ideas, and why are you having kids, and maybe, like that, are you sign them to the CIA, or is like you put them together in a special force,
The
uh,
X-Men. Yeah.
well,
Well,
actually,
I think
that would be
well, I
fun.
think
That would be fun, I have to say.
things that I think will be interesting and probably will come out of this event is kid scores versus the adult scores. I wonder, like,
Absolutely.
I bet I bet that will end up being one of the competitions, is that the kids will probably want to do better than the adults, which will probably be right based off of the research that I've done. It seems like I did a research project in which I looked at precognition and presentiment in different age groups within kids as they got older. And what I found was, because I was able, my parents worked at schools and I've worked at schools. So, some of the things with kids sometimes with testing is ethics. How would you test them? You got to get the parents' consent and a lot of that, which I was able to do. So I tested them on just a very basic precognition test on a computer. And what I found was that the age group of the youngest age group did the best. And the ability essentially got weaker as they got older. And so it would make sense to test them when they have the best chance of doing, well on the tests, which is young, apparently, in the
Yeah.
young age. So
Yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And it sort of reminds me of a few conversations I've had with so many people that said, oh, when I was young, I used to have, this ability, or I could say, but then, my parents didn't like it, or, I was embarrassed at school. So I sort of put it to one side, and sometimes, it comes back. But so I do think probably, as kids will manage to go ahead, of the adults. And I think that will be fun. And you know what, going back to the school, what's it called, the movie I forgot right now, the movie that you mentioned before, the X-Men, right?
Yeah.
In all honesty, even myself as a grown-up, when I watched the movie, I was like, oh gosh, I wish I was at a school like that. I think every human probably thinks that would be so much fun to be part of. So I in a way, if we really understand about these abilities, and the more we educate and we show um, how we're all capable. It's a matter of, some people have it just natural, rises, and and they develop them. But I think these abilities that are out there, and for the first time, through the PSI Games, are being showcased. I think it's more of a statement, a statement to let people know that this is real, and that it should be taken and considered as any other ability, and probably even more so. um, and and I'm sure that especially kids, I think they will be excited to participate, and finally, in a way, be recognized as, wow, yes, this is actually quite amazing. And who doesn't want to be part of a team like that, or a group like that? And if anything, it's so special and so unique. So I think it's that twist that needs and deserves to be shown, and finally, understand about the the nature of these amazing abilities, especially in children and kids and youth. Can you imagine if we were like 12 or 13, and instead of, I don't know, talking or playing video games, we'll be showing one another, hey, look what I can do. That would be such a different way of relating to one another, and especially at that age, which usually has a lot of struggles by itself. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to do this in this time. um, so I'm excited. I hope, and I wish, and it's my desire that grown-ups that are gonna listen to this podcast will go, oh, maybe my kid or my daughter or my niece mentioned once, and I looked at her or him going like, what is this? But maybe there's more to it, and parents and families can start realizing that this is actually a special power to have. And
Right.
and
Well, they're not the stigma has been reduced too.
yeah.
We talked about that. And actually I just saw Hakim. We're going to bring Hakim in to the show in just a couple minutes. We got him popped in the studio, so we'll bring him in. But I want to touch on, because I feel like the stigma has definitely been reduced, especially within children, where they'll have this experience and get shot down of like, oh, don't worry about that. That's nothing. Where now, even when I had my first experience of a precognitive dream, I didn't have anybody to talk to. There weren't chat groups. I had to go to the nearest bookstore and read a book. Now there's spaces, there's forums. I'm sure the Global Mindfulness Group has a great way to communicate and just talk about these different experiences. But it's changed, so the stigma is being reduced, and it's like the encouragement of fostering these skills is there.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, let's bring in Hakim. What's up, man?
Hey,
Hakim.
what's up, guys? How are you?
Good. So we were talking about the stigma and kids and youth, and I was telling pretty much Tyler that I wish I was recruited to one of these what was the name of the teacher at the
Professor X?
Yes, I was hold on. I will run there and go, yes, sign me in. So we were talking about how important it is to explain about these abilities, to start to look at them as actually a very wonderful ability to have, and especially, to have families and parents pay more attention, or close attention to what the kids are talking about, or about their experience, and not to shut them down because we don't know about what they're saying, or we don't know where to go with this, or how to, or even teachers, because with everything that you guys are putting together with the PSI Games, there's a lot of people that, as a reference to, okay, and this is something that I think we could do through Global Mindfulness Group, all the interest that probably is going to arise from these podcast, and the questions and the comments, and I think there's a lot of people that don't know where to go to further do research, or read about it, or talk to someone about it. So I think we can participate on that, and be that channel of information. So what's your thoughts, Hakim?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I mean, that's the reason we designed and created the PSI Games. Was one of the aspects that we wanted to cover was that youth today are having these experiences as they did in the past, but there's no real outlet for them. And it doesn't seem to be taken serious. It doesn't seem to be like something that people can use for their lives. And so the older generation normally kind of, for the most part, looks down on it, or feels like it's not an applicable skill. So we shut it down, or the youth shut it down, and then it's just the cycle continues. So with the exception of a handful of people, and then those people go on to talk about spiritualism, talk about intuitive gifts, things of that nature. But again, it's still just a few people. So how do we make that not the minority, but the majority, and see ourselves evolve and grow into these new spaces? And we have to first start accepting, youth when they tell us that these things are possible, because we all on some level have had those experiences. Even the most atheist, materialist can probably point to as a moment where they felt or thought about somebody, and that person called them. Now, they might try to rationalize it in their own way, but they'll be like, yeah, there were several times that happened to me, or I knew I shouldn't drive there today, and on the way I heard that there was this accident, so I'm glad I didn't go out. And they'll chalk it up to like coincidence or whatever other thing, but we are all having these experiences. So how do we really grow those? And I really feel like for the next level of our evolution as the human species, these things will start to develop. And maybe they were developed a lot more in the past. You hear about shamans and different groups who talk about these things. And then we lost them because we started relying more on our creative ability to design and create things to make the world easier for us. But maybe there's a place that we can go back to that really allows us to kind of have both in existence. And somebody mentioned to me recently this idea between artificial intelligence and organic intelligence. And I like the term organic intelligence. This, as we develop our artificial intelligence, can we develop our organic intelligence? And I'd probably even add one more to that. And I would say like this cosmic intelligence, something that's even bigger than just organic, because not everything out there is organic the way we think of organic. And I think that was highlighted in like, David Grush's, statement when he went before Congress and was talking about us acquiring non-human biologics, and then several of these other folks saying like the way we think about things isn't the only way. There might be other things or beings and, stuff we can't really fathom, because we just don't understand, or we don't have the context to understand. Like when we discovered germs, try to tell somebody there's this thing that floats around in the sky that you can't see that can get inside your system and wreak havoc. And they were looking at you like, oh yeah, right, witchcraft. No, it's not witchcraft. It's this thing. I don't know what to call it. It just makes you sick, but it's not witchcraft. It's just a natural part of our biology, in our world. And eventually figured it out and came up with this idea, but there wasn't a context for it at one point. And so we had to develop that before we could truly understand. And I think that's where we are with the youth, is like developing a context, a framework for these youth to really understand it, enjoy it, for their families to understand it so that they don't shun it when it happens, and they can develop and grow into something that we can't even probably fathom at this point.
As I was listening to you, it sort of reminded me that in South America, I'm Peruvian, right? So we're used to hearing about shamans and the witchcraft. It's very much part of the culture, like in many, like in Brazil, like in many countries in South America. And I think what people should understand is that and maybe the reason why kids, at least, in South America, maybe don't talk about it, it's because they feel they're going to be, put away or pushed away and not belong to the society. And I think the message, I was thinking about it, the message should be no. I mean, times have changed. And, and if you do have these, if you have these abilities, it's not back in the day where you're going to be, just moved out of the community and segregate yourself. With the other way around, I think it's the time where you are going to participate and probably bring a lot to the society and try to accomplish many things, but being part of today's world. And it sort of makes me think as well of what you were saying a bit about the AI. I think if there is a time where we have to start to recognize these abilities and take them seriously and see, how we can develop them and how we can encourage them, it's now. These abilities as we have as humans are so critical nowadays. The intuition, the telepathy, all these are amazing abilities to have, if especially in today's time. So I think in a way the message to South American, culture, the people that are listening to us today, is for them to know that these abilities, if anything, they're now today very much looked at as wow, and bring them along and let's cooperate and let's put something together and let's do the best we can to make the best of it, and not secluded, in a little village and be locked away. So that concept, that belief, around these abilities, I think should be exposed for everybody to know that times have changed, and like you've created these PSI games, and people should rise and explore. I think this is the right moment.
Yeah, I concur. And I think that we're seeing, so for all that materialism and the scientific method and things like that have done for us as far as advancement in technology, what we tend to see also is that there's an advancement in all of this dysfunction as well, right? So now people's attention span is not as strong as it used to be. Our ability to remember things is not as strong as it used to be. we now are prescribing to people to go out and get sunlight. My gosh, like when we were coming up as kids, like all you wanted to do is be outside. Like nobody wanted to be like inside. Now it's like a fight to get someone to have to go outside and move their body and all of these things. So we can say what we want about like ancient cultures. Like, oh, maybe they were doing things or believed in things that, we don't have any evidence for, but they were very wise on many levels. We're still trying to figure out how they built certain things, how they knew so much about the stars, cycles of the earth. So they were tuned in. So I think the answer now is not, hey, erase all AI or erase all technology. But how do we find a good balance between this organic, cosmic, and this artificial intelligence? This balance that we seek, instead of saying, "Hey, it's all that" or "It's all this." What about mapping out and unifying them? And so I had this interesting conversation with someone on Facebook, and they were like talking about like the cosmic self, and we need to like let go of all of these things, and when it comes down to the physical self. And I was like, well, we can't, not yet. We are here. It's like we are here, like we are in this physical realm, and we're these multidimensional beings. And so the answer at this stage, in my opinion, is not throw away the physical and then just only work on the cosmic. It's not just work on the cosmic and then don't work on work on the physical and don't work on the cosmic. It's like, no, we are all of that. So how do we start to raise up and improve on all of that and unify that working together? Which me as a yogi, you look at the word yoga, comes from the root word yuj, this idea of the union. And so you're uniting all aspects of yourself as these multidimensional beings. And so not just saying, hey, I'm just going to focus on the cosmic. Hey, I'm just going to focus on the physical. Hey, I'm just going to focus on technology. No, we're working in all of those spaces and try to, figure out a way to develop and all of that. And that's why in the PSI Games, we have, micro and macro. We have like this kind of digital competition aspect where you do remote viewing or mind sight on a digital format. And then you also have a hard format where you do it actually, where you actually do something physical. And so those two is because we, that's where we are. We're in a digital world, but we're also in a physical world. And so being able to bridge the gap between the two is really our ultimate goal, and not just doing one or the other.
Absolutely. And I think you've touched a very important point, because I see, this polarized view on one of the other, and not many, if anything, we need to unite both into this, experience while we still have this suit, this body. So to make the most of it. And Hakim, I know that you've been involved with all these PSI abilities for a long time. And why do you think it's important? What's your message to youth? Like, what do you see? I know you're also you have your own school. Mm-hmm. So what do you see that could be a great, influence or on kids? Why is this important for kids?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And it's because what it does is it empowers the youth to really embody and embrace the full scope of who they are. And to, at a time in which they are developing and their brains are the most open to, and their spirit is the most open to receiving this knowledge. It's like, we talk about in sports or in fitness about doing things in your prime, so like your prime to be an Olympian is not when you're 50 years old, right? So, and your prime to be an Olympian is probably when you're in your 30s or 20s, and then after that, you can still be great, but maybe not as great as you were in your prime. And so when we talk about these gifts, if we're saying that, there's a possibility that you're coming in from spirit, you're coming into your body, you're really in tune with everything, you're absorbing everything, your brain is still developing, your body's still developing, that would be a good time for us to start really working on not only strengthening your body, but strengthening your mind and your spirit so that you can be unified. And as you move forward and go into the different aspects of how we evolve as we go through our aging, those things will only be more solidified. As the body breaks down, the spirit and the mind can continue to thrive. And then as the mind starts to break down a little bit, then the spirit will start to take over and thrive. And so I feel like having kids start early really helps them build that confidence. It helps them build the resilience, the grit, the understanding of connection with everything. And it makes a really holistic, well-rounded individual who can move into the future totally in tune. What would it be like to be this superhero figure in your own life where you are strong physically, where you are strong mentally, where you are compassionate, where you are loving, where you are kind, where you are connected with the trees, where you're connected with other people, animals, because you were brought up in an environment that helped cultivate that, and not an environment that shut those things down because we were afraid or we felt like that wasn't the way we were. It would be amazing. It would be amazing. We all love the Avengers or these type of movies, and we have that potential inside of us. And probably those came about because of the inkling or the feeling that these potentials existed within our own being. And so we exaggerated them. And now we have these supernova beings or Superman or Superwoman. But really that stems from on some level, a projection of who we are on the inside, who we could truly be and who we want to be, And so why not explore that? Why not grow to the next level, become who we truly are on this deeper level, and stop always saying that, oh, that would be nice, but that's make believe, and start making the belief that we truly are these things, So
Yeah, and that these abilities are not just a gift to just a few, but that everybody has the capacity to develop, and especially kids and youth. And I was thinking, recognizing all these abilities and developing does make you a more wholesome human being, because at the end of the day, it connects with the most profound of yourself, so it opens up the experience to see it on others as well. So it could change, it has the capacity to change how we interact with others. How, imagine if you're a kid and you understand this, and you start to move away from how we are being taught on how to perceive society and how to interact, and the priorities, and then you realize, wow, you're so much more than this character that they've told us that we are. And through these abilities and understanding them, at the end of the day, it connects to you, and it connects naturally to everyone else. So I think that's the beauty that lies underneath this, this, especially about this project, this event that you've created, Hakim, because I could see it as the step to recognize all of us as the beings that we truly are, finally.
Mhm.
And that could be a totally different way of being here, in this experience called life, and how we interact with one another. And um, I think it brings the best of us, as a human being.
Yeah. And I like hearing stories from the past, where like ancient cultures, like ancient American natives, like will you would hear these stories where they would say, well, how did you know that that plant can heal you? And they would say things like, oh, the plant told me. And then we would be like, the average person is like, yeah, okay, he was just making that up, or, that was just a fun story. And now all of a sudden we're doing all this research on plants and we're like, oh yeah, plants communicate with each other and they're like, and they're sentient and they can move like to.
He's like, he just smoked the plant.
Yeah. It's like, we're in a whole, different space now. We're really realizing that, right, Tyler? And it's just, we're in a whole new space, and we're relearning and validating stories from our ancient text that people knew way long ago. It's a rediscovery, and nobody had to sell the idea. Nobody has to sell the idea to the average kid of why you need to go to school, right? Oh, you're going to learn, blah, blah, blah. But now we're also learning that that's not the best way for kids to learn now. There was a paper done by a guy at NASA, because they were NASA hired this team of scientists to help them figure out how they can find more geniuses. So they studied these kids over a series of years. Yeah. And they found that the kids, like when they first were 5 years old and they did the study, like almost all of them, like 95% of them or 98% were like genius levels. And then they followed those kids for years, like 5 years later or 10 years later, they came back and they found like only like 50% or 40%. Then they followed them like another 10 years and they came back, and now their level of genius was down to like, maybe like 10%, and then finally 2%. And they attributed it to school, because the confines of school, the lack of creativity, to just follow, the way the status quo is, and not really allowing people to develop. And so, we're finding that there's an innate intelligence in the design of the human species that, we don't want to negate. We want to work with that. I'm not saying that school learning mathematics or what we know about mathematics is not as bad, but also we should be keeping room for people to create or develop new types of mathematics through creativity, maybe through the same way we spontaneously come up with certain things, inventions and creations. And that all comes from an intuitive place. As a matter of fact, AC current, created by Nikola Tesla, his story was that he dropped out of college because it was just not for him. He was trying to figure out what he was doing in his life. He goes back home to stay with his mom for a little while. He's walking in the field in the sunlight, and he just has this moment of, voila, that's AC. Nobody taught him that at a school. Nobody, said, hey, if you do this and do that, then you'll come up with AC current. It had not been invented. It wasn't created. And he just had this moment of inspiration. That is what we're talking about. He changed the world. Like AC current changed the world. So like that came out not from a school. That came from a person who had this moment of inspiration. The same with, you look at Albert Einstein or any of the great minds, quite often they're like, yeah, I was playing golf, or I was playing with my kid, or I was standing in the field, or I was doing something that was totally unrelated to me being in an academic world. And this knowledge came to me. So if that's not good enough for a person to feel like there's value there, then I don't know what is. Because we play, or we want to pretend in our scientific communities that there's no room for this intuitive space. There's no room for this this inspiration, this musing that comes from wherever it comes from. And the reality is that some of our greatest inventions came just from that. And we want to pretend, like it's not there. And I think that's because nobody's, like the PSI Games, we're trying to develop this. Nobody's really tried to develop that skill. It became this hard fact, mathematics became something that was easy and dumbed down for everyone to do, this scientific method. And that became appealing because it's easy and it's something that everybody can do. Whereas the hard part is to really tap into yourself and really look at the demons that you have inside and clear all that crap out. And then, start to become one with nature and one with each other and all this other stuff. That can be kind of difficult for the average person. So, whereas if I can just as an individual learn some math problems and then do really good at it, now all of a sudden people look at me as this high level intelligent person, and we're forgetting about that organic intelligence and that cosmic intelligence. And now we're just in hard factual mathematic or scientific intelligence. Then we're not complete. We're missing a piece. But our society has grown to value that because it's taken us pretty far, but because it gave the person who wanted to operate at, I think, and this is probably controversial, it gave the person who wanted to operate at an average level an opportunity to seem like they were extraordinary.
I have to agree, even though, it's quite, people go like, what?
And I'm not saying it's not a place for mathematics and science, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that through memorization and the ability to do just some problems on a really high level, that took an average person and who could just memorize and regurgitate and made them feel and seem to our society extraordinary.
Yeah.
Whereas before we used to value just the opposite, the person who could tap in and tell you what plant to eat to help heal you, and nobody taught them, and they say the plant taught them. That was extraordinary, but it was really tough for people to do because it wasn't a way at the time to really explain and describe what that was. So then people started to value this other thing as we started to move away from that. Oh man, that's crazy. That's too hard. I can't do that, and the grass is greener on the other side. Look at those guys. They go to their university and they talk about the problems of life, and they do these math problems, and they look really cool, and and they eat really nice, and I'm out here with this shaman getting bitten by mosquitoes, like trying to, starving to death, drinking this elixir, going out of my mind, and then like having these. That's hard, man. I don't want to do that, So,
well, just to like we were talking about understanding experiences and after the fact, I think that historically, when you look at parapsychology and these psychic experiences, it's just been explained through journals, right? Like if you give a journal to somebody under 30, they're like, what? Yeah, nah, that's so, and I think one of the issues that I recognize is just marketing, of telepathy tapes is a perfect example. Look what they've been able to do over the past year with just elevating the topic. And I think it's like these relation points where people can come in. They don't have to read a journal article to understand about their precognitive dream that they just had or their telepathic, experience. They can come in and watch this episode or see a lot more resources out there for them to understand and then start exploring it.
Yeah. Yeah. I concur with that. I think that's beautiful. And that's, the PSI Games as well was like meet kids where they are. Yeah. I can't tell a kid, hey, go and sit in 15 lectures about quantum entanglement. They're like, whatever, dude, I can do quantum entanglement if you just gave me an opportunity to do it. I'd show you how it was doing, but you got to make it fun. I don't want to sit in a lab with white coats with people, telling me it has to be done this way. I just want to do the thing, and I want to have fun with it. And, and that's where we are still, is people still want to write papers and do research because they want to prove it to the most nullified and dull minds that we have. They are academic and they are smart, but they are not intuitive and they are not in tune. And so now we're continuously trying to prove to them that this can be done. And in that, we are in some ways suppressing the natural ability of those who can actually do it, because we're always questioning it. And I truly believe this kind of experimenter effect, that even if a person is a skeptic, that even though they may believe they don't have psychic abilities, I believe that they do on some level, and that their psychic abilities through their skepticism are actually suppressing the other person, because they where another person might be like, oh, I can do this. But then you go and this person, sometimes that doubt is so strong.
Yes.
A person who's truly doubting, who's truly not a believer, they can be very off-putting and very difficult to deal with. And so you have this person who's used to just being in a very relaxed environment, and now they're trying to, and somebody's like, no, do it like this, do it like that. That could just be very overwhelming, and their own psychic ability as well as the energy of the environment could just suppress that. And they don't get that. They just like, oh, you should just be able to do it, whatever. And if you're not practicing in that type of environment, then that makes it very difficult. That's why the PSI Games also is going to be cool, because it meets kids where they are. They're able to have fun with it. But then also, as they grow in the series of these events, first we start them off at demonstration level, and then as they get older, they can move more into the competition level. They'll get used to just having fun and doing this around people, and and it gets a little harder. It'd be like starting a kid off in Pee Wee baseball, like it's not a lot of drill. It's more of a demonstration of fun than it is anything. Like there's no real rules. Like you put the ball on the thing and they hit it.
Oh, my son played Pee Wee baseball. It's chaos.
It's chaos, yeah. And they just running around wherever, and you're just like, all right, it's just, we're having fun. It's not, we're not. It's not Major League Baseball, So and then they goes from the next level, and then it's a little bit more rules. Now you got to run the straight line to the thing, but if you veer off a little bit, nobody's going to be too upset. And then you get to the next level, and then there are more rules, and then you get to the next level, and there's more rules, and then before you know it, you get to Major League, and then all the rules, and you can perform all the tasks in front of all these people. But it didn't start that way. It started really relaxed and fun. I would love to raise kids in this psychic space, is that they can start just having fun with demonstrations and just have a good time, and then they can move to the next level, move to the next level, move to the next level. We'll be able to help facilitate that at the PSI Games.
I was thinking that also another way that it could be fun is to do like little teams, grown-ups and kids together, where they can collaborate and be,
that would be cool.
Yeah, because I think that would, give the kid more confidence, and and I think that could be a fun way to have maybe a few competitions, mix of groups of kids and
we were saying, Hakim, the main competition might be the adults versus the kids. The scores there.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of confidence and just probably at the beginning a little bit more stress with seeing everyone out there at the pub. But I think I think it's just a matter of time and them feeling that it's what it's all about, the competition, which I think could be a lot of fun for the kids as well. So what do you think we could do to educate and promote and facilitate to the Spanish-speaking community in terms of, activities that we could share, so the parents get to be more familiar with the terms, more understanding of what the abilities are, and maybe have the kids, play some online games to make them feel more comfortable. I think that could be a good way to introduce, educate, and facilitate information that for the majority, it's not that easy to find. And you don't want to end up going to the wrong person that, something serious as a PSI Games team, and the speakers and the researchers and everyone involved, I think that's quite a group of people that could, help move on with these abilities, and recognize them and have them taken seriously.
Yeah. I think what you're doing and what we're doing right now is we just need to get more information out there. I think also there is a fear that I've been feeling from people about this, in children. They're, even the people in the conscious. So there's a fear of the people in the non-consciousness community where they're just like, oh, this is evil, blah, blah, blah. And then when you look at the consciousness community, there's a fear that, oh, everybody's going to try to know my kid has these abilities and take them or steal them or try to use them in this nefarious way. And it's still fear surfacing on both sides. And we already learned from Star Wars that fear is the way to the dark side, So regardless of how it manifests, if it manifests as fear, like somebody's going to steal my kid, or fear that, so we need people to really get over fear and really start to feel comfortable with building a community. Our ancestors learned that the only way to survive hardship, the only way to survive dangers, was to do it through community, through tribe, building a tribe. Those who, a matter of fact, it was a death sentence to be casted out of the community, right? If you did something wrong and the community was like, get out, it was like a death sentence, because it was just really, it was almost impossible to survive on your own. And, and so that's the same thing here. We need to help people understand that this is an embracing community that wants to see you thrive, wants to see you and your family and these kids get to the next level of their own personal growth and development, and not something that wants to suppress them. And also we want to build a community around each other so that we feel safe, that we can explore, and that we can grow in these tools, and in these gifts. That, I think, is how we start to change, and how we facilitate that to different countries is we need to call forth those people in those different countries, in those different areas, who feel this way, who resonate with what we are saying here today, who have the skills to be able to do the translation, who have the skills to be able to do the facilitation, who have the skills to be able to do the training, and start helping us push this forward. Because it can't just be us. It's got to be them too. And we have a platform now. We have the PSI Games. Where you and I have been talking about how we can get that to other places. And we have the PSI Games online. So people can go online and they can actually play these games and start to develop and grow in those ways. So it's all there. It's all there. So we just need people to really develop and start stepping up to really help. That's one of the most beautiful things about the PSI Games International as an event is I'm blown away. Excuse me, I had this idea of how to develop this thing, and I was like, no, nobody's going to be interested. This is crazy. It's too much. And when I finally said yes to it, the whole world opened up. I mean, people like yourself, Orly, people like Tyler. Tyler and I met through this crazy circumstance. It was like a Zoom call like this, where he had registered to test for training and MindSight or remote viewing, right? And and this other guy, David, that was helping, was doing this interview with him, and I was super busy, and I was only able to catch on to it on the last 10 minutes. And Tyler happened to be only an hour away from me, live only an hour away from me, and then we started talking and found out, wow! And look, he's been so instrumental. All of the graphics you see come from this gentleman who has these amazing abilities. That was facilitated by the universe. I mean, you could talk all the crap you want about coincidence. There was no way
I love
Actually,
the other day when someone, on the one Sunday, someone says, "And how do you all meet? Through the Monroe Institute, through this?" And I was going, "Through what? Through what?" And then you said, "It's because we all have to be here."
yeah,
It's as
yeah,
simple as that,
yeah. And we
Um,
need people out there who feel that way in other countries who can speak different languages who can help us do that. And they're there. They're going to hear this and it's going to resonate with them. They're going to reach out and we're going to start to facilitate this in other areas as well.
yes. And I think one of the greatest powers against fear, it's knowledge. So I think, the more we educate and help people out there understand what this is truly about, and I think, all these ideas and all these fears that are natural because come on, we are set up, in a box with all these limits that, nobody wants us to cross. And of course there's fear all around, outside. So if you step to the right, you get uncomfortable because, it's not what we've been told to do or think, or, so many beliefs around it. So of course this subject will raise concerns and doubts and fears, and I think it's natural. And I think if we're able to educate and communicate and share and create communities, and people start, listening and hearing, maybe someone in Argentina, maybe someone in Colombia, maybe someone in Spain go, "Oh yeah, yes, I can contribute with this, or I can, collaborate with this, and I know about this, and I know about a group of people." I think that starts building awareness and a group that's committed and share the same, fundamental, I think, interest and desire that we all have, which is, let's come out, let's explore, and let's show what we are all capable of doing, which is this magnificent and wonderful, abilities that are part of our, um, energetic compound here in this body. So and beyond. So let's have fun with it, because that's what it's all about. And like you said, we know the reports and all the, scientific magazines in the journals, but it's not what it's about. It's about the experience of each of us, with this, the life experience and the experiences, the phenomena that we can talk about, discuss, and we can all share our views and understand, what's beyond all that, and realize, wow, we are, we're just amazing as a creation. So let's have fun with it and go all the way. So I'm excited, and I know for a fact that this this podcast will probably, raise a lot of questions and excitement and doubts and fear and all of it, and it's all welcome, because we will address the questions and the doubts, and I'm sure people will start to write and want to participate in one way or the other, and put together a community of people that we are, um, really interested in bringing this out. And I think you guys are doing a great job. And this idea, as like you said, Hakim, the moment you said yes, magic starts. So let's use that to, for the benefit of everyone. So I know that through Global Mindfulness Group, we're going to create on the website a page dedicated to the PSI Games, so people can register, so we can start sending, information about the PSI Games, the event that's happening in August, but also about in general all the activities and everything that, and we will be translating in Spanish so people can understand and be that channel, through the language, and hopefully get a lot of people involved, and create this awareness and this movement of let's go, let's get up, and let's get going, let's move, let's see what happens, let's play around, and let's explore, which is the most beautiful thing we could do. So I think it's a great opportunity. I'm so excited about, meeting you both personally in what, a little bit over, a month or so. So it's very exciting, and a lot of people that are going that are, I'm so happy to meet and bring along. And I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for everyone,
Yes, absolutely. And I would love to say as my last words, that, just extend an actual personal invite to everyone out there who's listening, who feels like you can feel that this resonates with you, that you may have had the experience before when you were younger and it was suppressed, and now you are doing it as an adult, that you may know kids or youth that have this ability that you want to help grow, or you just want to see this happen in the world for more people. Then, I would love to invite you to be a part of the PSI Games, whether it's here in the US or whether it's in your own country at one point in time. Maybe you could help facilitate that. And Orly, at this, thank you for making this possible for us to expand to more people, because again, through this unity, this is how we're going to be able to, develop, into these unified beings, this unified intelligence. I came up with that just now. so now we have artificial intelligence, organic, cosmic, and if you do it all together, it's unified intelligence.
I like that. That's a good term. That makes absolute sense. Well, thank you. And Tyler, it's so interesting what, all your research and experience, and there's so much there to share, and thank you because the graphics are great. I love them. And
thank you.
With it, so it's fun. And I didn't tell you this, but I am the biggest UFO fan for like as long as I've lived.
Don't say that now.
Oh yes, I'll tell you some personal stories, but yes, that's been my. Funny enough, as I said, I'm from Peru. And when I was, I think, around 11 years old, my dad said to me, "So what do you want to do when you grow, when you go to college or grow?" And I remember, that was a time where, me and my girlfriends were all saying, "What do you want to do when you grow old?" And all my friends were, I don't know why, they all wanted to be flight hostess. I don't know why. It was the thing, I guess, of the time. And I said, "I want to study parapsychology."
Cricket.
Jinx.
Yeah. So
no, we'll definitely have to exchange stories for sure. Which will be a lot part of the event. The thing I love most about the events is really the networking, the interaction, the community aspect to it. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. But, thank you, Orly. I'm glad, Hakim, you got to jump in the discussion as well. Appreciate everybody, all the listeners out there. Check out the PSI Games International for more information. And thank you guys for joining the discussion today.
And as Spanish as I have to be, I have to send a quick message in Spanish.
Sure.
Y decirle a toda la comunidad de Global Mindfulness Group que si escucharon este podcast, si les interesó, si les llamó la atención, si quieren saber más, si han tenido alguna experiencia que no saben cómo explicarla, si tienen a gente joven alrededor de ustedes que les ha hecho algún comentario, si quieren saber más, educarse y conocer sobre estas habilidades psíquicas, pues estaremos compartiendo todo esto y mucho más en PSI Games International, y también estaré enviando pues lo que estamos viviendo en Estados Unidos videos en el PSI Games y mucha más información de la que todos podrán aprovechar, educarse y ser parte de este maravilloso, no solamente evento que va a ser en Virginia, en Estados Unidos, sino también de este grupo de seres humanos que estamos comprometidos con la educación y con el poder pues llevar estas habilidades psíquicas de manera profesional, seria, para el bien y el bienestar de cada uno, y como decía Hakim, pues ser estos seres completamente, inteligentemente unificados, que es lo que somos. Así que gracias. Thank you, Hakim. Thank you, Tyler. It was a great chat, and I will get to see you soon.
Step into the beyond, let your mind ignite, where the limits dissolve in the glow of the light. A world unseen, we will rise to explore, unlocking the depths of our universal core. PSI Games, let's push beyond lives, where hearts, souls, and minds